right now I would say I'm in my dream career of what I wanted 5, 6 years ago when I was graduating college. I didn't even know that's what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to climb the corporate ladder, and then instead I created a event company, and now that's changed completely into a online school for students, right? So your dream career is not always going to stay the same, and that is okay. But it'll grow and it'll evolve and it'll shape into who you are as a person, and really what you want to see. So today we're going to talk about kind of where we left off last time. Who remembers what we were talking about last time we had these conversations?
I think we're talking about like pie in the sky, dreams. I'm not sure if we were talking about specific like next steps, but definitely at least like pie in the sky.
Cool, cool. Anyone remember what we were talking about not last Friday, but the Friday before that? First Friday being back. Talking about going with faith, trusting, right? Forgetting about apprehension, going in space with confidence. Nico, I'm going to talk about you a little bit today, but Nico and I had a good conversation just about how to build business relationships, right? And a lot of that has to do with what, Nico? What did we talk about?
I think a lot of it is how you enter a space and how you connect with the people in that space. I think it just boils down to that, how you present yourself. And I think that's kind of the core of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So thinking about these moments, these times, these areas that we're in, I think about, we talked about 2022 and the word of the year being go with faith, go with love, go with intention. And for us, we'll still talk about what faith and that confidence and trust looks like. But I think about 2022 as self-discovery. Who feels like they've discovered some new parts of themselves already this year? Anyone? Okay. Sabrina, what new parts of yourself have you discovered this year?
Quite a lot, actually. Just going into 2022, it's just more on self-discovery being my main one. And the second one, just being trusting yourself, like to make decisions, not for others, but for yourself. Like I feel 2021 for me personally, that you just worry about everybody else and then you leave yourself behind. And then I kind of lost myself during that year. So this year is definitely self-discovery and just using go as a metaphor and a physical thing. Just if you want to go for it, go for it.
Yeah. Love that. Love that energy. I think of 2022 in two spaces, right? Who am I in 2022? That's a question you should be asking yourself. And where am I, right? Because who you are and where you are two different things. Obviously, we know that. But understanding where you currently are in that developing, that evolving, that growth process is important so you know how to move in spaces with intention. And I was talking about this at the beginning, but I think talking about what I want to become and who I am now and what I have to offer are things that we have to truly analyze, because a lot of the times we spend our time thinking about where I'm not, right? How many of you are guilty? And I'm going to raise my hand on this as well, right? How many of us are guilty of talking about where I'm currently not and not focusing on like what I currently have and what I have the capabilities of doing? A lot of us, right? I think we all are, right? And I think that's with anything that we do in our day to day. And I think that's why self-discovery is so important. But within that time, right, something that I live by with is like faith without works is dead, right? Which basically just means like if you're not doing anything, then you can't, like, how can you move in a space where you're like, oh, I want to become this, but I'm not doing anything to become this, right? Like a lot of the times, and I definitely thought this. I was just like, oh yeah, life is just going to happen and I'm going to get into those spaces. And that was part of my life, right? I wanted to go to college. College just kind of happened and I was in college, right? I wanted to get a job after college and there were some struggle points and hard points, but I just kind of got a job after college. But building this DIM events in my space was something that I had to diligently work on. And I remember one time and just thinking about like, moving in a space and understanding how I needed to move in a space was very important. I listened to this Kobe Bryant video, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, but his work ethic was very, very hard, right? And he talked about waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, right? I'm sure I've heard my parents tell me to wake up early dozens of times, but when Kobe Bryant said it, and it was just like, it clicked, right? I was taking assessment of where I currently was, and I was like, oh, this is applicable to what I'm doing, right? Because I was working a 9 to 5 and I wasn't happy in my 9 to 5 after college, and I wanted to do DIM events full time. And because of that, I needed to figure out how to put enough time into my business to get out of corporate America, but still financially fund everything that I was doing, which meant I had to work in corporate America at the same time. And by doing so, I came up with a schedule that worked only for me, right? And that's the one thing about self-discovery. You're going to have to try some shit out, right? You're going to have to see what works for you. And that's why self-discovery is so important. So one of the things that I really focus in on was, okay, if I do this thing at 4 a.m., I have from like 6 to like 8:30 to get work done. And then I also have my lunch break where I get an hour lunch break every day. I can put some time and energy into that. So one of the things I used to do on my lunch break was interview interns, right? Because that was one of the things that was the time that I had. So I would schedule my interviews, 2 interviews every week for interns when we were building DIM events. The other thing I would do on my lunch break is go show clients different venues for the events that we were throwing, right? So I would go take a Uber, jump into the Uber, go show clients, come back and go to work. And then after 5 o'clock, I'm back on the clock working from 5 to like 11 until I wake up again for 4 a.m. So one thing, what does that mean, right? That's most story. But what does that mean for you? Assess your schedule. What is your current schedule like right now? And how can you make that schedule work for yourself? That is something that's going to be very important, because once you figure out your schedule, you start to create a rhythm or a pace of how you move in that day-to-day space. And one of the things that I always realize is, for me, I get a lot of my great ideas in the shower or when it's very quiet outside, right? You got to figure out what that means for you, right? So if you know, like, hey, and that was one of the reasons why I woke up at 4 a.m. because it's so quiet. I can just sit there with my thoughts and really think and really manifest what I want to see and what I want to become in the future. And for me, prayer is very important. So I would pray during that time and just ask God to reveal to me whatever I need to look at. For you, that might be the universe, whatever that is for you, figure that out for yourself, right? I'm not saying you have to do everything that I'm doing, but what I figured out for myself at work. So some of the things you need to think about is like, okay, what makes me productive? Nico, when I'm working on a video, right? What makes me feel excited to go in and work on that video, right? Does pulling an all-nighter work for me, or is that something that I've seen someone else do and I just thought it would work for me, right? If you know, okay, it works better for me to wake up early, do this from 6 to 10 a.m. and get this work done, that's my schedule. You see what I'm saying? A lot of the times we get, and I'm not picking on you, Nico, I'm just using you as an example. But one of the things we always think about is like, what are other people saying and what are they saying that works for them? And it's okay to try those things out, but you really have to, like I said, focus on self-discovery, really seek out the wisdom of understanding, okay, this works for me, or this is how I work. Or when I watch this video or when I listen to the song, I get motivated, right? And I really feel focused in that timing. So really figuring out what is your pace, how do you come up with ideas? What is the thing that really helps to push you and move you in your day-to-day life? Does that all make sense? Cool. The last thing I want y'all to do is really think about listening to the week or listening to the month. How many of you spend time on a weekly basis self-reflecting? And when I say self-reflecting, I mean reflecting on like how you got stuff done or things that you're really proud of, right? Like really setting up time to like be in that moment. Like, man, I really love when I did that. Cool. So if you don't do that, focus on doing that. Because what is that going to tell you? That's going to tell you everything you need to know how to move forward. The moment that you stop self-reflecting, you're going to just kind of be running in different areas and not really focusing on, okay, how did this work and how did this not work? Does that make sense? Right? If I go through my week and I know, dang, this week flew by fast and I feel like I didn't get anything done, that tells me a lot about this week, right? It tells me maybe I didn't have things structured out where I knew I needed to get certain things done and I didn't stick to a list, right? Maybe I didn't even have a list that I wrote out about, okay, these are the things that I needed to get done. Or maybe the week just went by too fast and I scheduled too many things on my calendar and I didn't feel productive, right? The moment you start to do that, you start to have a clear understanding of what's going on and how to build and develop. Does that make sense? So those are things you really want to focus in on and understand and have a clear direction and purpose for. After you do that, really focus in on how can I take those ideas and apply them to my day-to-day, right? How can I apply them to next week? So one of the things I challenge you all to do is going into your next week, use a day to schedule out what you want to accomplish. And for some of you, maybe put that on your calendar. Maybe mark out a few hours a day to say, hey, this is when I'm going to do this specific thing, right? Whether that's your calendar on your phone, whether that's in your planner, whatever you utilize to keep yourself organized, organize those thoughts and ideas, right? And then also go back and organize ideas that popped up in your head for the week, right? What are the things that I feel like, oh, this is a cool idea that I can actually work on? How can I intentionally work on these projects, these ideas on a reoccurring basis and schedule it out? Because like I said, y'all need to get into a rhythm or a pace. If you want to get into your dream job, set up a rhythm or a pace to get to that space. But if you're not doing anything and then you complaining like, oh, I don't know why I can't get into my dream job. Like, I really want to do this, but I'm not doing anything to get there. It's kind of hard for you to fathom to be like, okay, I can get to this space because I'm doing X, Y, and Z, right? Like, you really have to put in time and effort to that space. And the last thing I would say is just dream about being in that space, right? In the early morning, sometimes you can just close your eyes, meditate. I love to meditate and just visualize myself in these different spaces, doing these different things. And that's how I get a lot of my ideas. So spend time doing that. Those are 3 things that I think are really valuable. The last thing I really want you to do is do an assessment of where you currently are right now, right? And what are some of the things that you're happy with? And what are some of the things that you're not happy with? Write them out. So what I would like you all to do, there's 4 of you right now. I'd like you all to go into a breakout room, write some of these things out, right? Write them out on a piece of paper or on a notebook or on a Google Doc, and then share that with the person. We're gonna come back around 10:10 to start open door for our strategy meeting, okay? So y'all will have a few minutes. What are some of the things that you all wrote down or talked about in your groups?
Okay, I'll go first then. So Kimberly, I learned quite a bit about her, like how she processes things and like her visions for herself. And especially in the music management industry, that her main goal was probably to like just stick to her own intuition and like stick to her confidence that she has the ability to network and make things happen when a lot of people have judged her and are currently judging her for taking a really big leap and just being out there and not in the straight line. So I thought that was quite admirable. And then I think I shared like in return just the same kind of thinking, where just to be a little bit more fearless this year and take it as it comes, but also have a vision in mind. So not to be too controlling over the plan, because, you know, when you make plans, God laughs. But at the same time, just have your vision and try and make it happen as best as you can.
Who wants to share?
Yeah, Jamima and I talked about, wanting to get better at networking. Jamima has the plan to, wants to be a photographer, wants to get into the wedding and portrait business. And so trying to figure out, how to brand yourself in that, how to network with photographers in that, and how to get a job. And I'm not sure if Jamima, you want a job specifically in photography, but to have a job to kind of support this eventual dream.
Yeah, so that was basically it. the job that I want is to actually support that, and also just to kind of like have that brand experience working in the corporate world. And the conversation that I had with Nico was that he's very out there, right? And I think that's really cool how he just goes like street photography, just like makes up random conversations with people and decides to, hey, would you like for me to take a portrait of you or whatnot? And so, yeah, I think him just being very out there and open and experimentative in that sense was actually what I want to start doing for me. So, yeah.
Cool.